The British monarch has banned his scandalous brother from appearing at Buckingham Palace. Charles III has banned his younger brother Prince Andrew from working or living at Buckingham Palace. Any presence Andrew in the palace is officially over, an insider close to the courts said. We look into what exactly prompted the monarch's radical decision. According to The Sun, the 62-year-old Duke of York will no longer be allowed to have an office at Buckingham Palace or use it as a residence. The king has made it clear. He is no longer a member of the royal family. He's on his own, an anonymous insider told the publication. Shortly before that, Andrew's former military rank, Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, was ceremoniously presented to the Queen Consort. Camilla. It has also emerged that the British Home Office this month stripped Prince Andrew of his royal allowance £3 million, about $3.7 million a year, as well as 24-hour security, which was funded by taxpayers. In this case, the Royal Lodge in Windsor, where York lives, will still remain for him and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. The main reason for the new deprivations Andrew insiders call his scandal-tainted reputation. However, while the prince retained some preferential treatment under Elizabeth II, as he was considered the Queen's favorite son, his brother Charles III did not make any concessions. It is also worth noting that Buckingham Palace staff declined to comment officially on Andrew's eviction. As a reminder, Prince Andrew officially resigned his royal powers in 2019. This came after the prince's friendship with disgraced billionaire Jeffrey Epstein became public. The latter was accused of organizing prostitution and having affairs with underage girls. But the scandal surrounding the Duke of York did not end there. In 2021, American Virginia Giuffre claimed that the prince raped her several times when she was 17. Giuffre even sued Andrew, but the case did not come to court. The prince settled the conflict by paying a large sum to Virginia. The Giuffre story dealt a decisive blow to the reputation of the son of Elizabeth II. Since then, he has lost all his military ranks, almost all his titles, royal patronage, and has finally become an outsider in Britain. The Sussexes have been stripped of all their patronage since Megxit, and yesterday it was announced that Prince Andrew was also losing that privilege. But why would royals become patrons of certain organizations, and why is it as important as their titles and official regalia? One of the many attributes of life as a serving member of the royal family are patronages. Contrary to common misconception, it is not the expensive clothes or luxurious cars that distinguish the Windsors from most mere mortals, nor the many trips abroad, nor the exposure to some of the world's most talented people, but the royal patronage. It allows members of the royal family to give back to society by supporting causes they consider important. If one of the Windsors gets into trouble or decides to retreat from their duties, the Queen has the right to strip them of this privilege. The most prominent example of this rule was Prince Andrew, who is due to appear in court. The Duke of York's subordinate regiments have long asked to be released from his patronage, and in light of recent events, Her Majesty has granted those requests, stripping her middle son of honorary military titles and returning all his patronages to the crown. There were about 200 in 2018, but over time, many organizations have themselves severed relations with His Highness. After the separation from the Windsors, the Sussex patronages also reverted to the crown and were redistributed to other members of the dynasty. So what exactly does patronage status mean for royalty, and why does its removal almost amount to a loss of title? Patronage is the way in which members of the royal family support charities and community organizations, as well as military associations and local communities. Having a high-profile patron brings these organizations recognition, which can greatly help initiatives or speed up fundraising for a particular project. As Professor Kathy Farrow, co-director of the Center for Endowments and Philanthropy at City University's Cass Business School in London put it, it is a kind of seal of quality, a mark of trustworthiness. The very first registered patronage was George II's involvement with the Society of Antiquaries, an organization dedicated to the history of architecture and art, and the conservation of historic objects. Today, all meetings and activities in which serving royal family members participate are covered by a court circular. Today royalty may be patrons of all kinds of organizations, from the large and famous to the smaller specialist and community-based ones. Royalty has to be selective about the organizations it represents. The royal family website says, members of the royal family generally limit their patronage to a manageable number to ensure that they can devote a significant amount of their time to each organization. The exceptions are the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, who have more than 1,000 patronages, many of which were inherited from previous monarchs. Also, a huge number of patronages in her lifetime has been acquired by Princess Anne, who is known to devote almost all her time to work on projects she is a patron of. For this, the monarch's only daughter didn't even go to university, preferring to do the real thing. And to this day, the royal princess remains the hardest working member of the royal dynasty. Patronage usually reflects the interests of the royal family involved. For example, the Cambridge and Sussex families have taken on mental health projects, while Duchess Catherine oversees an early childhood initiative. Duchess Camilla has become president of the National Osteoporosis Society since her mother and grandmother died from the disease, and Countess Sophie, who is considered one of the Windsor's top fashionistas, has taken on the patronage of the London College of Fashion. How are ideas of beauty and youth changing? A snapshot of several generations of Windsor women at the age of 40. At the time of Edward VI's abdication in 1936, his beloved, for whom he left the crown, was already 40. The photograph shows her after her engagement to an uncle of Elizabeth I's, and the portrait has traveled the world. In 1937, the couple married and took the title Duke and Duchess of Windsor. Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, best known as the Queen Mother, was born at the turn of the century, on 4 August 1900. In 1940, the wife of George VI celebrated her 40th birthday. At this point, her husband had been on the throne for 3 years, and the Queen Consort was seen as the pride and backbone of the nation during troubled wartime. Elizabeth refused to leave her husband and go into evacuation, and their daughters, Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret, remained in Britain with their parents. Hitler is said to have considered the intrepid Queen his personal enemy, calling her Europe's most dangerous woman. Queen George VI was only 51 when her August husband died, and the throne passed to her daughter, and she changed from Queen to Queen Mother. The day after her 40th birthday, Elizabeth II made a speech at the state opening of Parliament. She wore a coin or diamond crown and other diamond jewelry, a traditional ceremonial gown, high white gloves, and a white evening gown by Norman Hartnell. Her granddaughter Princess Beatrice was not yet born, but many decades later she would walk down the aisle in this dress by her august grandmother. On 21 August 1970, Princess Margaret turned 40. The Queen's younger sister had a 9-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter, but the princess's life was anything but exemplary. 8 years later, she would divorce Anthony Armstrong Jones, the first in a string of official royal breakups. In this photo, Margaret is seen wearing the controversial lace evening gown and Cartier halo tiara, a gift from her parents to her sister, which much later adorned Kate Middleton's head on her wedding day to Prince William. The Queen's only daughter, the practical, hard-working Anne, celebrated her 40th birthday on 15 August 1990. This portrait shows her a few months before the anniversary, during a visit to the USSR. The mother of two had not changed her hairstyle since her youth, and continued to wear her favorite outfits for decades, which was not difficult, given that Her Highness has maintained the same weight all her life. At 42, the uncompromising royal princess would dramatically change her personal life in just a few months, divorcing her first husband and marrying Timothy Lawrence, with whom she lives happily to this day. Many will remember the epic video that was released for the Duchess of Sussex's 40th birthday. The video was supposed to draw attention to the Birthday Girls charity initiative, but it ended up confusing the audience with its jokes about English traditions and Harry's odd behavior as a court jester. However, the public could see that in his 40s, the native of California, raising 2 young children, looking fresh and relaxed to the envy of the haters. For the birthday of Her Highness National Portrait Gallery, whose patron is Catherine since 2012, with photographer Paolo Roversi prepared 3 pictures of the future Queen. They were taken in November 2021 at Kew Gardens and stylized as elegiac Victorian portraits. In 10 years at court, Cambridge has become much more confident, but doesn't look a year older.